Hello everyone, Leeuwarden here and you're listening to Hine at Home. And today I'll take you on a short trip around the center of Leeuwarden. You don't know Leeuwarden? Well, shame on you guys because it is the capital of Friesland, province in the Netherlands. But someday it used to be a country of its own, sort of. So you know maybe like Friesland or Frisia, this is one of the names of the countries, and the Leeuwarden is the biggest city in the province and its capital. So once I decided to take a short trip to the north of the Netherlands, and I just decided to also check out the basically two main hubs, and one of them was Leeuwarden. I've heard a lot about the city before, and the things I've heard of it weren't as great. I don't know why actually. A lot of people were sort of hating on it, these locals or those who used to study there or live there. So for some reason I couldn't really get why all this nitpicking about the city and sort of hatred is going on. So yeah, I went on my short trip to actually find out what is happening there. I came with an expectation that Leeuwarden has nothing really to offer for people visiting it, so I didn't know what to expect, but I basically just checked out mainly the city center because I didn't have any high thoughts about the more suburban area or the area where the suburbs are. Yeah, I just wander around the city center, and actually I was quite surprised with seeing that it is quite a neat city. Yes, I think it's quite small, that's why for most of the people living there, maybe youth, it's not as exciting. But overall, it's not that bad. Leeuwarden definitely has their own landmarks. Something that was really weirdly put within the composition of the whole city center is the Frisian Museum. It definitely feels like the building is not out from here. So maybe because of this, also the Frisian Museum didn't look too great for me. Not necessarily the building itself. The building is a great modern building with high ceilings, a lot of windows around. But yeah, I think for those who are really interested in this history of Friesland, they should definitely check it out. So besides that, there's a lot of architecture that was saved from all times, from like probably 17th, 16th, 18th century. And you just walk past the streets and you'll be able to see those actually more classical Dutch architecture. So you wouldn't be surprised by what you see. It's still quite a neat city. It's quite small, and maybe the size of the inner city is a bit smaller than the one was in Groningen when I visited it, and probably took me 1 hour, if not less, to just walk around, make the full circle. If you look at the map, and you basically will see that the inner city sort of has this five or six spikes sort of next to the canal, because the inner city I think is same as in some of the Dutch cities, it actually is surrounded by the water. So those spikes before, they were of course used for defense. Now not anymore, and I think in those places now there are just like park areas, and I actually chilled in one of those. It was pretty nice. And I think the main landmark, something that really makes a distinct difference in Leeuwarden, is this old tower that's left, and it really resembled Tower of Pisa, just because it's also a bit crooked. It's like almost falling on the side, and the tower itself called Oldenhoeve. Pretty sure that the architect who built it didn't intend it to almost be falling down like this. So citizens of Leeuwarden demanded to build a tower that is taller than the one in Groningen, Martini Tower. However, during the first months of construction, the tower started to tilt so much, so they really needed to adjourn the whole project at the 39 meter, which is about 50 meters shorter than the Groningen Tower. I thought you guys will find it interesting. So as you walk past the streets of Leeuwarden, I think a lot of streets when you work in the city center, they look more or less the same. Like you'll be able to spot some of the other more like places of interest, like museums, which would be the Princeshof, which is the ceramics museum now, and there is also Natuurmuseum, and which is the natural history museum. So I think it mainly suitable for kids. Both museums are quite small, so I think if you are into this kind of stuff, of course, you can go and check them out. I decided not to spend my time there. And I think modern buildings is definitely not a huge thing in Leeuwarden in the center, and one of those who definitely catches attention is the Friesland Museum, and the second one is the Acmea Tower, which is like basically the huge black grayish tower. I think now there is a Deloitte office in there. I think quite a similar one is actually in Rotterdam, is that Manhattan area on the other side of the river. I was quite happy to learn that Leeuwarden used to be chosen the capital of culture back in 2018, and because of it they actually were making quite a bunch of different events, and I think Leeuwarden trying to actually develop their touristic attractiveness by hosting different festivals, events, and so on and so forth. So they actually, one of the reminders of this 2018 for them was the fountain or sculpture called Love. Basically, there were just two heads of people, and I think for depending on the different angle, they are further from each other or like kissing each other, which is quite a cool work. Yeah, it is. As you also just stroll around the streets, and I think my main route was just along the canal, I was able to see the St. Bonifacius Church, quite a noticeable church. Then you also would stumble upon the campus of University of Groningen, their Frisian campus, and something called Blockhauspoort, which I first thought was some kind of a castle, but as it turned out to be, this is now just office areas. Was quite curious to learn why did that happen, but at the end of the day, it's great that instead of building some huge office towers like the Acmea one that they already made, they were able to repurpose the older buildings where maybe there was not that high of a demand for them. So now people actually can work inside of the great historical site. I suppose it's a pretty cool idea and cool concept, and maybe some other cities and towns should preserve their historical heritage by also allowing businesses to work inside of them, and maybe businesses should help out and take some other care of the building they're in, and definitely the whole city community will benefit from preserving the history. I think besides that, Leeuwarden didn't really impress me in the sense that I felt like this 1 hour and a half, 2 hours that I was just strolling around was pretty much enough for me to learn about the town. I'm afraid I could be really heavily misjudging about the whole situation, but you know, at the end of the day, what else there is to watch? You also can check out the city hall, the theater called Harmony. There is also quite some green areas. You can definitely go out and chill. You can definitely take a boat tour, and I think there is some kind of a gondola situation like in Venice, and yeah, you can rent that out and just go past the canals and chill with anyone. Wouldn't be surprised actually that's the thing for most of the towns with the canals. Maybe that was sound weird for me, but I still would recommend people to go to Leeuwarden, just to bring yourself up to speed with how everything is going on. And I know a lot of people like having their own prejudice against the north of the Netherlands, and a lot of people were asking me from my office, oh, why go into Groningen and Leeuwarden? And for some reason they have this kind of weird expectations that there is nothing to do and nothing to see, even though maybe nothing to do is more or less a relevant comment, because I personally didn't find myself doing something else besides sightseeing, but that was also my main goal. But for some reason people just really underestimate certain places, and I think if you're open to some new experiences and you're ready to look for something out that would be interesting for yourself, you'll definitely find it. So I'm really encourage everyone who's been in the Netherlands to also just go beyond the most popular touristic place and try to explore something else. Just go to the north, go more to the south, go more to the east. Maybe Limburg is not that good as people usually say about it, not that bad. I mean, as you know, there is again prejudice against people living there, and it's just so weird, there is quite some prejudice in such a small society in my view, while everything is so close, and yet people still feel sort of distance between each other in the sense of, oh, those are this, these are that. Yeah, I just don't really dig this stereotypical thinking, especially when you just don't go somewhere. You would already have this strange feeling. I know sometimes it may sound funny, but at the end of the day, some people may use it against each other, just to separate people, like people making fun of other provinces because they're having some different accents. And I know that Frisian, they preserve and trying to keep their own language, which is nice, and that language is definitely further away from Dutch than German, I would say. So yeah, at the end of the day, my message here is, guys, explore new places, even within the countries you're currently in. If it's possible for you to go to another town, even right next to you, you'll be able to find something interesting. And of course, I understand that there are some small towns where there is literally nothing happening, of course. So just try to look for something bigger. Try to go, I don't know, to another regional center next to yours, and maybe after a couple of hours you'll find some great sites. We have internet, and you'll be able to find out before you go there whether there's anything to see. So it's also nice, but just don't try to jump on the conclusions too fast just because someone once said to you that there is nothing to do. There is always something to do anywhere. Well, thank you very much for listening. I'm looking forward to your comments, and maybe if you'll be able to share any stories of where did you go this time in terms of the internal tourism. Maybe you visited some new place that you have never thought about visiting before, just because you had the opportunity to go to some more exciting places before, as in going abroad. But hey, this is really the perfect time to go around about the country you're in. So utilize that. Thank you very much for listening, and wish you a pleasant day. Hit a like, subscribe, and comment down below.